One of the first things you notice in South Lebanon is that it's hard to find a Lebanese flag. This is Hezbollah country, and its yellow flags cover the landscape, along with the green flags of Amal, a rival Shiite Muslim group. Although called a terrorist organization by the United States, nearly all Lebanese credit Hezbollah with liberating this part of Lebanon from Israel in the year 2000. And it's Israel that continues to define the politics here.
We don't have any guarantees against the Israelis. If the Israelis want to attack us, we can't have anyone to protect us. So we need Hezbollah's arms to protect us.
Abdel Karim Yunus, his wife and 9 kids, live right across the street from the border. Their front porch looks out over Israel. Yunus is like nearly everyone in the south who are resisting the ever louder calls for Hezbollah to give up its weapons. As Lebanese go to the polls this month, the issue of disarming Hezbollah will be one of the most contentious issues for the new parliament.
We want to ask those from the Lebanese community who are calling for Hezbollah disarmament. Do they have any guarantees that Israel wouldn't attack us anymore?
Some Christian Lebanese politicians are joining the international community in backing UN Resolution 1559, which, among other things, calls for Hezbollah to disarm. This sets the stage for a showdown in the new parliament. To get an idea about how important control of the land is in this part of the world, you need to visit the tomb of Sheikh Abad, or Rabbi Ashi, as the Israelis call it. It's peaceful here now, but every inch of this tomb was in dispute. Now the border runs right down through the middle.
The arms of the resistance, the power of liberation. And we want to free all Lebanese land, even if it is 1 centimeter. We will fight until we get that land back.
Hassan Habaleh is a newly elected parliament member from Hezbollah's political wing. He rejects the UN resolution that calls for disarming Lebanese militias after the Taif Accord, which ended the 15-year-long Lebanese civil war.
We're not a militia, we are a national power. The concept of a militia is that it's a faction that is against the states. After the Taif Accord, Hezbollah always been working in accordance with the Lebanese states, with its blessing and approval, so we're not a militia.
Whether a militia or a resistance group with government blessing, as most Lebanese consider it, Hezbollah maintains total control over the former occupied zone in southern Lebanon, although its fighters are nearly impossible to see and don't like to be photographed. They keep close tabs on the border region, as our driver, Mustafa Hamadeh, explained.
When we were at the Fatima gate, they were monitoring us for sure. And then, when we were first shot on the streets, they started monitoring us, and they keep doing that until we leave.
At one point, we were stopped, and they asked to see the video footage. This incident took place in an area known as Sheba Farms, where periodic fighting continues between Israel and Hezbollah. Afaf Awada lives in the closest house to the Israeli position, marked by this tower on the hill.
We never know where Hezbollah fires from. They fire from between the trees always, and we never know where from. And when they start firing at each other, Israel and Hezbollah, we're like stuck in the middle, and our condition is very dangerous and critical.
She showed us bombs and shrapnel damage to her house from the fighting.
This bomb fell there on the ground.
Sheba Farms, just over the mountain from Awada's house, is a tiny piece of disputed land under Israeli control. The Israelis and the UN say it belongs to Syria, while Hezbollah claims it as Lebanese and vows to liberate it. The prospect of Hezbollah disarming and control of Sheba Farms are two issues that are connected for Lebanese politicians.
Most Lebanese politicians would think that we should settle the Sheba Farms issue. If it is Lebanese, then we should ask the international community to press Israel to withdraw completely. And then there would be no need for the continuation of the fight against Israel that is being launched by the Hezbollah.
Hatas Huri is an outgoing Christian member of parliament and a possible future presidential contender.
There will be no majority in the parliament to push any resolution against Hezbollah without having an international deal whereby there will be some settlement to the Palestinian as well as to the Sheba Farms.
Although not a majority, a bloc of Christian politicians are pushing Hezbollah to disarm, regardless of what happens to Shebaa Farms. Their views are shared by many in southern Lebanon's Christian villages.
I believe that the only faction on Lebanon that should have arms is the Lebanese army, because it's the sole representative of the Lebanese government. But when it comes to Hezbollah, it's kind of a very delicate issue.
It's a delicate issue because, like her Muslim neighbors, Sylvia Amoun credits Hezbollah with liberating the south and supported the resistance during occupation. But now she feels that the Shebaa Farms issue can only be resolved through dialogue.
Disarmament of Hezbollah should be resolved in a diplomatic way, because if that doesn't happen, and since it's usually portrayed, the Christians are usually portrayed as the ones against the arms of Hezbollah, there's going to be some friction soon. I expect that to happen.